He's sitting on a beach chair. The water is perfect, the sky is doing that thing where it looks unreal, like a screensaver, and his phone is face up in the sand, and every 40 seconds his eyes drift to it. Not because anything is wrong, nobody's called, nothing's on fire, he just checks, then looks back at the ocean, then checks again. He paid for this trip. He wanted this trip, and he cannot, for the life of him, turn off. Here's what's strange. It's not that he doesn't know how to relax. He could tell you exactly what relaxing looks like. Deep breaths, slow mornings, a book he never finishes. He knows the theory. His body just won't cooperate. And here's the reframe that changes everything. This was never about willpower, or discipline, or just letting go. What's happening on that beach chair is neurological. His nervous system is doing exactly what it was trained to do, and it has no idea the training ground has changed. Stay with me here, because this isn't just about vacations. This is about why some people walk through their whole lives at a low hum of tension they've stopped even noticing. It's about why rest can feel, weirdly, like danger. And by the end of this, you're going to understand the actual mechanism behind why you can't relax. And more importantly, you're going to see exactly where the door out is. So let's start with the sharpest version of this. Your body doesn't know the difference between busy at work and under threat. Truly. At the level of your nervous system, chronic urgency and chronic danger look almost identical. But here's what nobody tells you about this. The switch that turns urgency off doesn't flip the moment your environment changes. You can be lying on a beach, physically safe, financially fine, nothing due, nothing pending, and your body is still running last week's software. So here's exactly what you'll walk away with. Not vague comfort, but the specific mechanism. Why your mind keeps returning to your phone, your inbox, your to-do list, even when there is nothing left to do. And what's actually driving it isn't guilt. It's something called an open loop, and once you see it, you'll recognize it everywhere. And here's the pattern interrupt, the thing that should genuinely surprise you. Research on stress physiology shows that your body can take days, sometimes the entire first half of a vacation, just to downshift out of a state of vigilance. Which means for a lot of people, the relaxing part of the trip doesn't even start until it's almost over. Let's talk about what's actually happening underneath. Your nervous system runs on two basic settings. One is mobilization, alert, scanning, ready to respond. The other is rest and repair, the state where digestion works properly, sleep is deep, and your mind can wander without snapping back. Most people assume they move between these states automatically, like flipping a light switch. They don't. They're grooves. And the groove that gets used the most is the groove your body defaults to. If you've spent months or years living in low-grade urgency, checking messages, anticipating problems, staying on, that groove gets worn in deep. Your baseline shifts. Vigilance stops feeling like stress and starts feeling like normal. And here's the part that reframes everything. Your body isn't malfunctioning when it can't relax on vacation. It's functioning exactly as trained. The groove is just deep, and 1 week at the beach isn't enough to carve a new one. There's a term for the cumulative cost of living in that groove, allostatic load. It's the wear and tear that builds up when your body keeps mobilizing resources for threats that never actually arrive, over and over, for months at a time. And here's the part that finally explains the beach chair. Allostatic load doesn't just tire you out. It resets what normal feels like. A nervous system carrying a lot of it doesn't experience calm as calm. It experiences calm as unfamiliar, sometimes even as a kind of alarm, because calm is not the state it's used to defending. This is where the idea of an open loop comes in, and it's going to explain more about your own mind than almost anything else I could tell you. Psychologists have long observed that unfinished tasks occupy far more mental space than finished ones. Your brain treats incomplete as unresolved tension, something it needs to keep a low-level watch over, even when you're consciously trying to ignore it. That's why an unanswered email can sit in the back of your mind louder than 10 answered ones. It's not about importance, it's about closure. Now, think about your actual life. How many open loops are you carrying right now, today? The project that's almost done. The conversation you need to have, but keep pushing. The inbox that never hits zero. Each one is a small, quiet demand on your attention, and your nervous system doesn't get to clock out just because you've physically left the building. It keeps holding the door open for all of them. This is why you can lie on a beach chair in paradise and still feel like you're waiting for something. You are. You're waiting for all those loops to close. And they can't. Because you didn't bring a system for closing them. You just brought your body. Let's go through a few specific patterns, because I want this to feel concrete, not abstract. First, the compulsive check. You look at your phone even though you know there's nothing urgent. This isn't weakness. This is your nervous system running a threat scan, the same behavior that once helped humans notice danger in their environment, now redirected at a glowing rectangle. Checking gives a tiny hit of resolution, for about 4 seconds, until the itch comes back. It's not information you're seeking, it's relief from tension, and it barely works, which is exactly why you do it again 30 seconds later. Second, the guilt underneath rest. Some people can lie still and genuinely do nothing, and it costs them nothing. Others lie still and feel a creeping sense that they should be doing something. That stillness is somehow earned rather than allowed. That gap has nothing to do with laziness on one side or virtue on the other. It's identity. If your sense of worth has been built, even quietly, on being productive, useful, needed, then rest doesn't register as restoration. It registers as a threat to who you are. Your body isn't relaxing because some part of you is protecting your identity from the accusation of being idle. And third, the one that surprises people most, the restlessness that shows up right when things finally get quiet. You'd think quiet would feel like relief. For a nervous system that's been running hot for a long time, quiet can actually feel unfamiliar, even unsafe. Silence removes the noise you've been using, maybe without realizing it, to stay regulated. So instead of settling, you fill it with your phone, with planning, with a mental list of everything you'll do when you get back. That's not failure to relax. That's your system reaching for the only regulation strategy it knows. If you've made it this far, I'd actually love to know which one of these lands for you: the compulsive checking, the guilt under stillness, or the restlessness in the quiet. Drop it in the comments, because I promise you, you're not the only one who's going to see themselves in this. Now here's the part that actually reframes the whole thing, and I want you to really sit with it, because this is the shift. You are not a person who is bad at relaxing. You are not undisciplined, and you are not broken, and there is nothing wrong with your character. What you have is a nervous system with a deep, well-used groove toward vigilance, and a set of open loops that were never given a proper system for closing. That's it. That's the whole story. And here's why that distinction matters so much. Because I'm just not good at relaxing is a life sentence. I have an unbuilt system for downshifting is a solvable problem. Identity shapes behavior long before discipline ever gets involved. If you believe, even quietly, that you are simply a high-strung person, an anxious person, someone who can't sit still, then every attempt to relax becomes a fight against your own self-concept. You're not just trying to calm your body, you're trying to override an identity. No wonder it feels like pushing a boulder. But if instead, you understand what's actually happening, trained vigilance, unclosed loops, a nervous system reaching for familiar noise, the entire task changes. You're not fighting yourself anymore, you're retraining a system, and systems, unlike identities, can be built on purpose. Think about the difference between "I'm a scattered person" and "I've never built a system for closing loops." The first one is a verdict. It closes the conversation before it starts. There's nothing to do with it except feel bad and move on. The second one is a diagnosis, and diagnoses come with next steps. This is the same shift that happens when someone stops saying, "I'm just not a morning person," and starts asking what's actually disrupting their sleep. The moment a trait becomes a mechanism, it stops being permanent. This is usually around the point where people ask what to actually do about it, so let me be specific, because I promised you a mechanism, not just comfort. Closing loops deliberately, before you try to rest, matters more than almost anything else. Writing down the unfinished things, not solving them, just naming them and setting them aside on paper, signals to your brain that they've been acknowledged, which measurably reduces the mental tug they exert. This is the same principle behind why a 5-minute brain dump before bed can quiet racing thoughts. The loop doesn't need to be closed for real. It needs to be closed enough for your nervous system to stop guarding it. Second, understand that downshifting takes time, not willpower. If it takes your body 2 or 3 days of a trip to actually arrive, that's not you wasting the vacation. That's the groove being worn in the other direction. Which means the real skill isn't forcing relaxation on day one, it's protecting the conditions. Less stimulation, more stillness, fewer decisions, long enough for the shift to actually happen underneath you. And third, and this might be the most important one, notice when the guilt shows up, and instead of obeying it, just name it. There's the belief that I need to be useful to be okay. You don't have to argue with it. Naming it is often enough to loosen its grip, because guilt operates best in the dark, unexamined, mistaken for truth. There's a fourth piece too, quieter than the others but just as real. Give your nervous system something to do instead of nothing. Pure stillness, especially early on, can feel like too big a jump from constant stimulation, like asking a sprinter to stop mid-stride, a walk without your phone, watching the water instead of scrolling. Something with just enough gentle input to keep you from reaching for the noise you know, while your body slowly learns that this quieter input is safe too. That's the bridge between vigilance and actual rest, and most people skip it entirely, which is exactly why the jump from busy to still feels so jarring. If any of this is already clicking into place for you, I want you to do something small right now. Just drop a word in the comments, loop or groove, whatever landed. It helps me know which of these ideas is actually useful, and it costs you nothing. Here's what I want you to walk away with. Your environment is not neutral. It's constantly training your nervous system, one small moment at a time. Every checked phone, every unclosed loop, every ounce of guilt you swallow instead of naming. And identity is not fixed. You are not the vigilance. You are not the guilt. You are a person whose system has been trained one way, and systems can be retrained. That's not a pep talk. That's not hype. That's just what's true, mechanically, about how nervous systems work. The groove that was worn in over months or years doesn't reverse in a weekend, but it does reverse. Every time you close a loop, instead of carrying it, every time you notice the guilt, instead of obeying it, every time you let stillness be unfamiliar, without rushing to fill it. You didn't fail at relaxing. You were never taught how, and no one told you it was a system, not a personality trait. Now, you know. And that alone changes what happens the next time you sit down, phone face up in the sand, and feel your eyes start to drift. If this shifted something for you, subscribe. There's a next part to this, on how to actually rebuild the groove day to day. Not just on vacation, but in ordinary life. And if you know someone who's never once relaxed on a trip in their life, send them this. They'll know exactly who they are within the first 10 seconds.